Hey guys, this is Neo with another update on Warcraft 3 Reforged. We are getting balance changes. Woohoo! 4 months after release, they finally deliver something of value, and that is the version 1.3.2.6. It is already on the PTR, so go to your Battle.net, download the PTR or update it, whatever, and then test the changes. What are these changes? I will talk about all of them, give my personal opinion on them. And yeah, let's go. What do we see in general? Before we go into this, in general, A, it's obviously very good that we get this. B, reading the dev notes, I was really afraid that they will throw us a bunch of shit and see what sticks, and we get another 1.30 debacle, which brought us the keeper meta, right? That was probably one of the worst metas we've ever had. It is a lot of changes here, but a lot of them are nuances and shouldn't be game-breaking like the Keeper was. So the approach to this is the right one. A lot of this goes into the right direction. Some things might be under-tweaked, some things might be over-tweaked, but we will go into this and how I think that things will develop from here. So, let's go to the Blizzard forums. So, it's a work in progress. Everything can be changed. This is their first version of this, so we have to give feedback on things we think need to change. So it's a lot about heroes and abilities, it's a lot about items, and it's a lot about maps. There's a couple of other things here that we don't really care, like raccoons and stuff. So let's go. Mountain King Clap is too strong. We all know that. No damage cap, huge AoE. It's just absolutely crazy. So Thunderclap's cooldown is going to be increased from 6 seconds to 7. I spoiler a little. There's going to be a couple of other changes to heroes, and that goes for mana potions. The big mana potion is weaker, and the normal mana potion is weaker, but also cheaper. So we have to keep that in mind when we talk about all these spells. Is that the right idea to nerf Thunderclap? I don't think so. I think a 7-second cooldown across all levels is okay, but I don't think, yeah, it was spammable, but the really bad thing about Thunderclap is the radius and that there's no damage cap. It does damage to everything. Well, for example, a Carrion Swarm gets weaker if it hits the max number of targets. Other spells have a max number of targets and then it stops. Thunderclap doesn't have that. And that is why you see this spell wrecking armies alone. Mass hunches, range backlines, even economies. Like, we see this in Human Mirror 1-on-1. An MK can wreck an entire economy, and that shouldn't be the case. So, right spell addressed, in my opinion, in the wrong way. We'll see. Rifleman. We see this more and more. It has become a very standard unit in most of the matchups, which is nice. So their attack speed has been lowered, so the DPS gets reduced by like 3%, which is not much. But I wonder if that is really necessary, or if that change alone is not sufficient because it needs to be backed up by buffs on other things. Because if you're so reliant on Rifleman, the reason for this change is to focus the human versus elf Rifleman push, where human is pretty strong against the early tier 3 night elf. This is definitely a strength of human, but in general they suffer against night elf, and I don't think, like, this is my opinion, against the Warden and the newly developing Keeper meta. Also, if Riflemen are so weak, what does human, or gets weaker, what do humans do against Orc? And how do they deal with Undead? Like, this takes away the small opportunity they had to go one-base rifle versus Undead, right? It was already super hard to do that. Now it's getting even harder. I don't really like this change. Riflemen were a little oppressive, and they were definitely strong, but too strong? I don't know. So the Paladin is one of many ultimates that get changed by being simply cheaper. It's okay. It's a bad ultimate. if you make it cheaper, you might see it more, but all the other 3 spells should be better than Resurrection still. So you will see me skipping these a lot. Same goes for the Shadowhunter. Big Bad Voodoo is cheaper now as well. Still, Heal Spray, Heal Wave, Serpent Water, Hex, whatever you choose, should still be better as it's channeling and therefore can be interrupted. This is what makes this ultimate bad. Farseer is a little more interesting because it does more damage in less time. So the damage per second is increased, but the duration has been decreased. Mana cost also decreased to 125 and no longer affects friendly units and structures. This is pretty cool. You can't hurt yourself anymore. You can't even use it to slow and damage in a fight. So I can see Earthquake. It's still channeling, so it can still be interrupted. This goes for a lot. But I can see this being used a little more. TC. The change we've all been waiting for. Warstomp cooldown increased per level from 6 seconds to 7 seconds. That is necessary. Absolutely necessary. There's 2 approaches to this. Either you decrease the stun duration or you increase the cooldown so the stun uptime in total is less. They increase the cooldown here instead of decreasing the stun. And I think that's fine. It is absolutely necessary. Is it enough is the question. We'll see. I don't think it is a big decrease in power for level 1 TC, because when do you ever see level 1 TC? You power creep to 3, and if you don't do that, you lose the fight anyway. Level 2 might make a difference as well. This is a buff for Undead for sure. This is a little buff on, for human in that matchup. So yeah, we will see this a lot, and this is one of the bigger changes and one of the better changes. Witch Doctor, one of my favorite units, get the Stasis Trap buffed. The activation delay decreased from 9 to 10 seconds. So you pop the Stasis Trap, and then for 10 seconds, pretty much nothing works. So it has to load a little or something. That takes 9 seconds now. It's quicker. It's better. Detection rate is reduced. That's also nice. And activation time reduced from 1 second to 1.5. Okay. Okay. You have to react a lot quicker to status traps now. And with the nerf on Stomp, keep in mind, we saw Infi pairing Warstomp with the TC with Witch Doctor status trap already. Will this make up for it in some matchups? It's a rather quick and fast tech. I would love to see that more. Status Trap is a spell that was abandoned for years, so trying to make this better while not reworking it completely is pretty cool. Night Elf, Keeper of the Grove. Entangling Roots, range increased from 600 to 800 on level 3 only. So 1 and 2 stay the same. Level 3 gets more range. Not sure if this is necessary. The dev notes here. While we like where the Keeper of the Grove's early game powers, we want to give his ability a little boost in the late game. Okay. I think it's still... It was already pretty powerful. Keeper is kind of squishy, so having him operate from more range is kind of nice because he just pops. And yeah, late game Keeper is really bad because he's so squishy. Entangle can still be used well. I think it's alright. I would have rather seen like 700 to 800 because 800, if you remember, the 1.30 times was a lot. But that's a cool boost. I think we will probably see Treants 3 more because 4 summons just still a lot. But why not? Shouldn't have too much of an impact. Tranquility though. The ultimate, the AoE healing, had invulnerability in 1.30 for pretty much all the time, then 1 second invulnerability. That has been removed, but it runs for only 12 seconds now, and the healing is increased. So it heals more in a shorter amount of time. This is a change that goes throughout a lot of ultimates. I like that. Higher impact. Still, this can be cancelled without invul, so you don't even get your 40 guaranteed HP. I don't know if we will see Tranquility that much anymore without that invul time. I think it was a cool idea to give channeling spells and invulnerability to have at least a little bit of guaranteed impact. They seem to be of the opinion that it's not the case. Among other things, they say that it worked as an anti-debuff mechanic, which was not intended, so they want that debuffs stick with the keeper when he goes into ultimate form. Yeah. Alright, nothing game-breaking, but yeah, less ultimate, I think. Bear, get 1 additional damage. A lot of people wanted to see 2 more damage, they give him 1. This is another topic where I think, okay, a change is necessary, but is it the right one? The damage was decreased already. They give him 1 back. It's still not the old bear. But is the weakness the damage? Because they have Roar on top. DPS is okay for the unit that the Druid of the Claw is. Because keep in mind, this has a fast tech, tier 3 melee unit, fast tech, buff in Roar, and healing in Reju. So that is a lot of utility. Does it have to do the most damage? It's kind of not really a glass cannon. With Roar it can be glass cannon, but I think a lot of people would have loved to see armor or HP increase to help them out. This should be the popular opinion, I think. Making bears a little better is good though. We see a lot of tier 1 Night Elf with mass archers, mass hunts, and I would love to see Night Elves moving away from that. So giving them a little bit of a tool to do that is nice. Same goes for Talons, which we see here. Gold cost reduced again to 135. This is their old gold price. The issue was that if Talons cost more and you produce them in masses, this 10 gold adds up to a lot. And if you play them, you need a lot of heal scrolls as you fight AoE, and you need invul potions as well because you have basically no blockers, or your heroes are the blockers, right? So this 10 gold changed a lot. I don't want Night Elf to go back to the Talon meta versus Orc because that's really boring. I do appreciate that change though, because I want to see more diversity in Night Elf armies. What I would really love to see is Talon units as a support for tier 2 pushes, for Fairy Fire, and and Focus. I don't think this alone will bring back Master Talon, like Master Talons. But it's another thing where I say, okay, they guide them off the mass tier 1 train, and that is a good thing in general. Coming to the biggest change in this entire patch, and that is the Crypt Lord. It's pretty much a rework, a soft rework, but this changes a lot, and this is all the rage in the Warcraft 3 Twitter sphere at the moment. Crypt Lord Impale get changed. So the way that Impale works at the moment, you use it, like click, tag, then it's channeling for a little bit of a second, and in that channeling moment, if you move the Crypt Lord, then Impale cancels. So you spend your mana, but it doesn't do anything. If you don't do that, if the Impale works, units that are thrown into the air are invulnerable and cannot be clicked. In addition to that, projectiles that are already on the way to that specific unit end up in no man's land, so they don't do the damage they were supposed to do. The change here, units knocked airborne can now take damage and be attacked. Not only does it mean that you can click them while they're in the air now, this also means that your focus fire still applies and the projectiles end up on these units. This is a lot stronger, and that changes Impale completely. There's still an issue. Airborne units are still untargetable by spells. This was left in place out of an abundance of caution for introducing unintended bugs. Okay, so I know that reworking this spell was in the works for at least 2 years, and for a long time they had no idea how to do it, so they added something new in. Really cool that they stuck with this and tried and tried and tried and finally found a solution. Well done. Should they be targetable by spells? I think yes. Like stunned units are targetable as well. But if the technology just isn't there yet, okay, it is already a good buff to the Crypt Lord. And maybe Tri-Hero Ulsa, Crypt Lord will see more play. Maybe he will be picked more over a Pit Lord or a Dark Ranger. The thing is, though, that undead timings are oftentimes rather sharp, and if you have to include the Crypt Lord build time now, plus the leveling, because Impale still costs a lot of mana, and the mana pool for the Crypt Lord is still very low. Maybe as a tier 3 edition, it's not that great, especially on smaller maps. But he is definitely way more viable. Another thing, and this might change Undead tier 3 in addition with a couple of other things. Carrion Beetle's mana cost increased from 30 to 45. What? Now spawns 2. Oh! Maximum Beetles increased to 6. So, if this means that Carrion Beetles actually get a lot cheaper. So for 2 beetles instead of 60, you only need 45 mana, which is always good because, as I say, the mana pool for the Crypt Lord is very limited, and you have more beetles and they stay forever, so you have like a little beetle army. Creeping with beetles early, like a keeper can creep, like an archmage can creep. This could be big. Army is still pretty slow, as you don't have an Unholy Aura. And you still can't really heal, because the dagger is so weak, right? We will get into that in a bit, because the dagger gets buffed as well. Let's just skip right there, because it's totally related. The total hit points increase from 125 to 175. The duration should still be the same from what I know. So not only that it heals more, it also heals faster. And that's a big thing. You don't have to sacrifice your skeletons anymore, as you could have beetles, right? That could be a really, really, really cool synergy. We could see way more undead expansions, and we could see way more undead tower pushes. Could be a big change. DK Ultimate cost less mana is still only an item that you use, an ultimate you use for celebration, right? Skeleton Warrior, the only buff to human in this patch, pretty much. Base hit points decreased from 190 to 180. This should mean that they are not purged by creeps anymore. I've read both things. Like when this was released, everyone was of the opinion that it still gets it doesn't get purged. Now people say it does still get purged. I couldn't test it yet due to casting in other videos. But yeah. Makes it a little easier for human to deal with them early on. We saw 1-2-0, especially on Northern Isles, summoning 6, creeping up to level 2, summoning 6 skeletons and harass that base that was pretty much unholdable. So this helps a little. Does it help them enough? I don't think so. We will get into this later. Beastmaster Bear is a little cheaper, from 125 to 100. Could just work out better, as they say. If you go Bear Quill Beast, you can summon an additional Quill Beast. If you go Bear Hawk, you can actually summon another bear. So we haven't seen much love for the bear. It's a really cool summon. Very tanky, good damage, good utility. So hopefully we see this more. Beastmaster in general should still be trashed here. Pit Lord Doom is now slowing as well. It was already one of the strongest ultimates. Now gets another buff to it. I'm not sure if that's necessary, but I don't know. Whatever. Firelord Volcano is one of these ultimates where it's more damage throughout a shorter period of time and no longer affects friendly units. Should make Volcano better. It is still a bad ultimate. Same for the Naga Tornado. It's pretty much the same there. Cheaper, duration shorter, more damage though. So you can control this better, as it's not traveling random anymore, so you can control it a little better. So, those were the heroes. Items. As I said before, greater mana from 300 to 250, that is good. That is the right direction. I don't think it's drastic enough. This is still, with mana regeneration taken into account, like 3.5 coils, 4 coils, 3.5 storm bolts, 2 water elementals for 1 item. I think, in my personal opinion, this entire drop menu is too strong. Maybe not heal potions, but invo potion, sometimes even Scroll of the Beast, big mana potion of course on the very forefront. This normal potion of mana from the shops get reduced mana as well, only 25, but it's alright. But it's also cheaper, so this could mean 2 things. Either we see less Stormbolt, less Stomp. This is what we've seen now, pretty much. Also, Entangle can be used very well. Some Undeads use it very well. Or this gets spammed more because it's 25% cheaper. Could be another buff for Undead. If you can afford the mana potion easier, why not go for it? It makes your already strong spells easier to achieve. I don't know. This could backfire. This right here. There's a lot of item changes now. They're not that crazy. Red Drake is now Blue Drake and has a little bit of slow. It's still kind of trash compared to everything else. Talisman of the Wild is now another Furberg that has Fairy Fire. So it's a little more utility, and they gave this summon a spell, which in theory should be good. I don't really see it work though, because it will, at this stage when you get these items, there should be the spell. And then Chuchung is gone. So I don't think that's the way. Scroll of Restoration, the Scroll of GG only heals 150 instead of 300, so 1 heal scroll. Which is good. But it's still so good. It's still so good. I don't think that changes the Scroll of Restoration into a weaker drop of that loot table. It's still crazy good. Scroll of Animate Dead is gone, and Scroll of Resurrection is gone. That is basically the Paladin and Death Knight ultimate. They were both pretty shit because that requires units to die first because you can use it efficiently. It's been replaced by a Scepter of Mastery and Scepter of Avarice. So this is Transmute and Charm. So with Mastery you can take over a unit, and with Avarice you can sell a unit. We will not see this a lot in 1-on-1, sometimes maybe in 2-on-2. I think these ultimates that they morphed into items are very strong, but if it's 1 charge, I think it might be fine. It's not a big deal, really. So that's about items, right? Okay, let's not go into what I missed. Let's do that later. Because Merc Camp updates, they streamline everything a lot. To be honest, I'm not too sure what this means. This won't have immediate impact for 1-on-1. Because Lordaeron Summer is unchanged, so Muddy will stay the same, the model will stay the same, Troll, etc, etc. This is all the same. For other tile sets, the Mercenary camps are a little different, so there might be changes, but I don't really know how good that is. It's mostly for other game modes, I feel. Maps! Yes! Dalaran removed. Woohoo! This was great. Brightwater Aces is in. To be honest, I don't really know that map too well. Remo is definitely the experts on map. So this is a map where random stuff is happening. So each side of the map will have 1 Goblin Merchant and 1 Laboratory. That is balanced. But each will spawn in 1 of 2 locations. So random factor added. I think Remo liked this a lot. And this is Brightwater Aces right here. Starting position upper left and bottom right, as we oftentimes have. Quite some creep spots, I think. A new tile set that we don't see too much in 1-on-1. It has expansions on a high ground, just like Last Refuge, so this could be neat. I've seen this in one tournament basically, and I let other people comment on it since I am really not a map kind of guy. But it can't be worse than Dalaran. That's a good change for sure, and I think they listened to what people said here. Phantom Grove out and Circle of the Fallen Heroes in 2-on-2. This is also a good change. Critters added to Terranas is another undead buff, as they can use this for skeletons now. Skeleton creeping possible on Terranas. Twisted gets another level 1 null at the green spot in front of your base, and it drops an item like cloak and stuff. Oh no, a tome. Echo Alt has a couple of new trees and pathing and stuff. And that's pretty much it. So, this is all good. My takeaway from this, human are still screwed. I really don't know why they hit humans so hard. Or buff other races and human not. They will have problems versus undead for sure. Maybe versus night elves now with bears stronger. And against orc as well when clap is not that strong anymore. Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic, right? What will be nerfed more, the stomp or the clap? You can still rely on Stormbolt and focus, right? But the rifles are nerfed as well, so how good will rifles still be in that matchup? This is going to be really interesting. Undead might be overbuffed depending on how well the Crypt Lord play works and how good the Impale is for late game and how good the Beetles work early game. How many fast expansions will we see? I think Undead is going to be too strong. I don't think the Night Elf changes will do too much. I hope they move away from a lot of tier 1, but I said that already. What I miss. More item changes. The drop tables are still quite shit, even though the biggest elephant in the room, the mana potions, were addressed. Mana pendants are still way too strong. Auras are still way too strong compared to the stat drops we have. That is something I definitely miss. Archers could use a nerf, in my opinion. Maybe take a little bit of damage away. And yeah, that's pretty much the biggest things, right? I'm really glad they didn't introduce new spells. They didn't cut tech trees. Maybe you could give an incentive to play more worms, but then you really have to nerf undead somewhere. They still didn't find an answer to necros, but we see more necros than we did before. So maybe it's up to the players. We've seen necros versus night elf. We see side play them a lot. Maybe it's just a little gimmicky and it has been figured out. But apparently necros are to a degree playable. But yeah, the biggest things are addressed. Are they addressed in the right way? Is anything missing? I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the changes? What would you change? What do you think is OP? What do you think is imbalanced? What do you think needs a buff? What about the items? What did they miss? What should they change? What would you like to see addressed? I know that these guys are watching our videos and the comment section, so this is a wonderful place for you to reach out and provide feedback. They want to listen to it. They want to adapt to our proposals for balance, so this is your chance. Hit the like button, put it in the comments, and people will read it. 30-minute breakdown of patch 1.3.2.6. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't miss anything. This is Neo, back to Warcraft, bringing you all the news about Warcraft3 Reforged and the competitive scene. Go play the patch and feedback on it. See you with more news soon.